On this podcast, we speak to the parents of the Schmidt family who encouraged their kids to start their own small business, Happy Pops. After rescuing their own horse, Louie, from a kill pen in Louisiana, their son Merrill teamed up with his brother Owen to sell pet popsicles for horse and animal rescue. Happy Pops took off and now donates 10% of their profits to animal rescue. You can find their popsicles in pet stores, farming retailers, or anywhere dog, horse, and other farm animal treats are sold.
I'm Kim Schmidt, and this is my husband, Jim. We are the parents of Merrill and Owen, and you had them on as guests just this past week, actually. They came up with this unique concept for popsicles for horses and dogs and other animals. And we have been spending the last year and a half or so guiding them through this process and trying to develop successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'm Jim. My claim to fame is being the father of founders of a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do for your day-to-day jobs?
I'm a pediatrician.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom, and I help the boys. I used to be a publisher of 2 local magazines and actually left not this past January, but of 2021 to help the boys develop their business. So my background is marketing. Jim and I have both been business owners in the past. I used to own a mutual fund company. That was my first company that I had started, and have been freelancing as a graphic designer ever since, and then was a publisher and now helping the kids. Kind of colorful background, I guess.
Yeah.
So having all of that as your background, what do you think was the biggest takeaway to help you start Happy Pops? And was it the marketing background or the magazines, or what do you think helped you the most?
I would have probably the marketing and the branding aspect of it. The day-to-day elements that go along with a business are not my strong suit. And it's actually, most graphic designers are really bad at the business side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where Jim's strength tends to come into play. But certainly the branding part of it.
Yeah, that would have slowed us down quite a bit if we didn't have a graphic designer on the team there. That makes everything good.
Okay.
Funny too.
Yeah.
So I guess initially when the boys came to you with this idea, what were your guys' thoughts?
It was great. So Merrill, he's 15 now. A couple years ago, we rescued a horse. His name is Louie.
Mm-hmm.
He's 14 at the time. He's a draft cross. And Merrill was really moved by the fact that a lot of these horses came from the kill pen out of Louisiana. And the whole horror of it was something that he just felt this desire to help more horses. So he started researching treats and then came up with the concept of popsicles, and it's just kind of morphed into what it is today. So I don't remember what the original question was.
Yeah. So it started as a compassion project. We didn't set out to start a business that was going to persist. It was something important for them to do that we wanted them to do. And then it just kind of got legs, and the interest that flooded in told us that we needed to continue, and it expanded from there. So it really wasn't our initial intention to get here.
No, yeah, it was just meant to do something good for somebody else. We had a summer, we're just like, why don't you focus on something? And it just kind of blew up, honestly, which is really fun.
Did you guys do a compassion project each summer, or was this a new thing that you decided to do this one summer?
No, it was a new thing. I just was having this moment as a parent with the kids and decided that they need to focus on something other than themselves. And so we challenged them both to come up with something. Our other son was working on raising money to help a food bank type organization here in town, and then did that for part of the summer, and then jumped on board with Merrill. So it's more fun to do things with somebody else.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
This was not rehab from a problem that
No.
they have. They are both really compassionate people by nature, and so this was not a big lift for them.
Okay.
But we did kind of require that they do something, and it led to this.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So did you your sons mentioned kids in biz a lot during their podcast. Was that something that you guys followed for a while, or was it that summer when you found them?
They weren't part of the initial launch of our organization. We kind of accidentally stumbled upon them because they were in the development stage of their concept. And I just happened to be driving past and saw a sign on there and just let myself in into the front door. And then we've just gotten to know them, but they've been a fantastic support for the kids too, because they don't necessarily always want to hear everything from mom and dad. So it's been nice to have other people that are experts in entrepreneurship and focus on kids to kind of also give them some feedback and support.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the lessons that we tried to teach them is always be on the lookout for opportunities. So if you're driving by an opportunity, you pull over and stop. So I think they learned that along the way. And we really taught them the importance of relationships and network building. So it was a good example of that. You know, it was where there was an intersection between interests and it was a good relationship and they learned to build that relationship with them. It's been really, really fruitful.
Yes.
I feel like you guys set them up very well because you made them write out a business plan, which I don't even think I would have thought to like have them sit down and do each step. But like I feel like they set it up so well, and to have their positions like clearly labeled, this is what one person's doing and this is what another person's doing, I think is really unique that you can do that with kids that age.
Well, admittedly, it wasn't easy.
Right? Yeah.
It was like pulling teeth sometimes.
Yeah.
Once you get in the flow of it, it's you're excited when you can kind of see as you're, plotting out what's going to happen with your company or what your goals are.
Yeah, we didn't really start out with the roles that way. We would sit down as a group and we'd all talk about everything. And we found it was a little bit overwhelming. There were so many things coming at them. So they sort of naturally gravitated towards parts of the business. Then we decided having them take more ownership of their individual parts really allowed them to have the ownership and follow through. And that was a pivot we made that was really successful. That I would recommend that to other people that are mentoring kids through businesses, is to find a piece that they can really own it, that they're going to succeed in, and just get them more engaged and excited.
How do you?
So towards the operations side, the other one ended up more in the side, just based on their personality and talents.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle if you can see something that they're thinking and it's an idea and you don't want to squash their idea, but you know it might be like a mistake? How do you handle something like that with them?
Good question.
Yeah, how
That's
should
hard.
we have or how did
Right.
we? Yeah, because we made that mistake along the way for sure. Is they would have ideas and there are times when we should have let them. Maybe with our perspective, we saw it was going to take them someplace they didn't want to go, and we redirected. And I think in retrospect, we actually would have let them pursue some of those channels a little bit and learn along the way. That's really how you learn. But it is hard because they're coming at this with no experience and we're coming at it with some experience. So knowing where to redirect and where to let them follow their path is a challenge.
We tried to, like he was saying, it's hard to not just jump in and take it over. Because we feel like with our experience and background, we know more. I mean, we're in our 50s, we've had a lot more experiences, but along the way, we did make mistakes and maybe took a little bit too much control, but we've definitely backed off a little bit, and we've taken time where we would present 2 or 3 options that we think might be a good idea and see what they think and then let them choose. So we could kind of still let them have ownership of their decisions, but guide them like a path where we think that it should go. But we've actually tried to transition even out of that. And now it's theirs, and they need to make mistakes. It's going to be hard to watch. And they have made some mistakes in the past. So they've been good learning experiences.
Yeah, I think we've learned that, we built up this infrastructure and all the essential business, like building the bus. And then if we were driving the bus too much, it just turned them into passengers, and that was going to be their natural reaction. So we had to recognize that and say, okay, you guys are going to drive the bus and we need to be okay with whatever direction you're going to drive it. So that's a lesson that we learned a little bit the hard way, and we're really trying to embrace that and make that change.
If you had to go back and do it all over again, what's one change that you would have made?
Yeah, that's hard. The timing was good for us because this all really ramped up during COVID, and the kids were having school at home and they're pretty good students. So they ended up having a fair amount of time. So we had the time together to build all this infrastructure, because you got to have a website and an accounting part, and you got to do product development, things you have to do to even get the business off the ground, unless you want it to be just like lemonade stand scale. So we beyond that scale, and we drove that probably more than we would like, but I don't know. I think it got it to its critical mass, and now it's really time for them to drive. So, I'm not sure I really regret that. I think it maybe is the natural evolution if you're going to take it somewhere beyond the lemonade stand style business.
Yeah, I can't say that I have any regrets or anything that I would necessarily change, other than maybe letting them make more mistakes. I think that's maybe the one thing. I mean, we don't control the company by any means. If we saw that they were heading down a path where it was going to crash and burn, we would step in and say, okay, let's rethink this. And we would guide them, and we still do, we guide them to process pros and cons and even write them down, and let's talk it through, and then let's decide. You guys decide what you want to do based on this conversation. So they've done a good job discerning based on these conversations and the information that they have on hand. So truly, like I think I even mentioned on the phone with you all that, for example, with the retailers, we would help them determine, okay, what kind of retailers do you think would be a good option for Happy Pops? And then we would talk about the different types, and then they would go and make a list of local retailers and then they would make the phone calls and walk in. So even though we talk them through the process of determining these things, we still try to let them be the ones to do the work and make some mistakes talking to retailers on the phone. They could have said something differently that caused retailers say, no, thanks, not right now. And then other times they handle that kind of thing really well. And anyway, huge learning process.
Right. Are you right there with them when they're talking to the retailers or over the phone? And no.
Maybe initially we were, but not anymore. In fact, Merrill doesn't like it when we're in the room. He doesn't want us to listen.
Yeah. At first we would coach them through it and try and do a role play. We all know how much kids love doing a role play with their parents, right? Pretty quickly. And they took off. And I must say they've really excelled in that relationship building and speaking about the business. And that they've done really well. So we just let them roll with that.
Wow. So you've really
the stuff that they appreciate more.
You've really let them take the lead then in all ways, it sounds like. And it's really their thing that they've brought together and brought to fruition. Have you had any moments where they were like, we don't want to do this anymore, or we don't want to have a meeting, or why do we have to have a meeting? I think you guys said that you have weekly meetings, business meetings. I was so surprised to hear that, because their schedules are very full too, it sounded like, with activities and everything else. How did you guys balance that, or have they ever told you like this is too much?
We've heard all of the above.
Yeah. We struggle, right? And trying to balance all those things.
Do you want to address?
Yeah. Well, I mean, COVID was easier because we had a lot more time, and that was the time for building all this stuff. Now we're having to switch a little bit because they're back in school and they're baseball players. This is baseball season and all that kind of stuff. So we're having to be more strategic. So we don't make our meetings every week. And, we've told them, we know your time is really limited. We are going to try and offload a lot of the time tasks that are just take a lot of time and aren't learning. But if they're key decisions or they're parts of the business that you guys own, those are for you to do. And we're going to try and offload the other stuff. There's a lot of regulatory stuff and banking stuff that I take care of.
True. But that's offloading based on them asking us, not necessarily telling us what to do, but asking us to do it. So admittedly, right now, being their busy season and things are starting to warm up, I'm sitting here chomping at the bit, literally, to let's get out there, let's call more retailers, let's do this. But they don't necessarily have the time. So we're progressing. They're doing a great job. It's just not going as fast, but that's the limitation of their time. So we just have to be okay with that and know that this summer, I'm envisioning that things are going to grow like crazy because they'll have more time. And that's okay. I mean, it's still very successful and they're still learning a ton. And that was the point from the very beginning. So
if they wanted to quit,
time management, it's been interesting between the two of them because they're in this together, but it's doing more work than the other, and that's civil and rivalry stuff. So we made a pivot there too, where some of the tasks they actually will get a commission on, some of the production tasks, and they'll get a commission if they spend a lot of time at a fair or a market because they tend to be very profitable, but it's a big time investment, and that has helped them see a little more immediately some of the rewards of parts of the business. Initially it was exciting to build it up, but now parts of it, we like them to see that immediate feedback that, I made a commission on spending my afternoon doing that.
And also with, for example, paying them to do some of these parts of the business, it's what, as we grow the business, I should say they grow the business, we're going to have to hire people to help us. And if we want to be in more markets, we're only a couple people and we require them to go. I don't go and run a booth. One of them has to be with us, and they need to be in front of the customers and the consumers anyway. But we can't be everywhere. There's so many markets, for example, that we could be in. So we're going to have to pay people to do it. So paying them to do it, and they can see how that impacts the bottom line and takes away from, the revenue stream and their net profits and things like that. So there's a lesson in all of this, and yet at the same time, it's motivating them to also want to be out there more.
Right. And essentially they're hiring themselves to do the job right now, and they're going to reach the point in which they're going to hire somebody else, but they already see how that affects the budget and everything else.
Yeah.
So talking about budgets, I guess, initially, how did this start? So did you guys give them a set amount, or did they have to fundraise to start their business? Or I guess what tips would you have for parents who, like, their kids want to start the business, but financially they're not sure what to do?
So there wasn't a whole lot of startup costs, which was good. And we as a couple made a very small investment, enough to get things rolling a little bit. They both made a small investment too. So we were not going to do it just funded by us. They each had to make a personal investment too that was smaller than ours, but it was enough of a nest egg
enough to
get things rolling. Yeah, they felt it. It was, it was a lot for a kid that age. So we've been able to fund it ourselves with that initial investment, and it has been successful enough that it has not needed any more cash infusions. But they look at the bottom line all the time, and they see on our our balance sheet, here's the initial investment, and at some point we're going to have to pay that back to mom and dad and to ourselves. And here's the profit and loss and the other associated assets and stuff. So they see that. Fortunately, it wasn't a huge investment up front.
Yeah, but they have to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
We were not going to just mommy and daddy were going to write you a check and let you run your business. They had to have skin in the game too.
Yeah.
So the amount that we knew was going to be stressful if they didn't work hard to make that back.
And they see it on the balance sheet every month. So
we also, Meryl makes sure that we run a very lean business.
So we know
bean counter. That's good.
He hates spending money. So we've had to been a lesson like, hey, you got to spend a little money on this for a return. Yeah. Lots of lessons.
Are they different in that too? Like, does one of them really like you're saying the one doesn't like to spend any money, and is there another one that's like more of this free spirit? And then what do they get out of doing this? They do all of this work. Is there something that they are able to like take that money and probably one of them likes to save the money? And are they allowed to do with that what they want to, or do you guys have like certain things that they have to do with that money so it's not wasted? Or
yeah, so they are definitely different in how they approach money. Meryl, the older one, does not like to spend a penny. The younger one will spend it as soon as it hits his pockets, but he will actually give it away, right? He is a big spender. It's usually he will pay as easily as he spends it on himself. So, and the money that they pay themselves for their work, that is their spending money. Their other money, we have them do a spending amount, a saving amount, and some discretionary funds with their own personal finances. They made them start a little investment account too, so they can see how that works. The money they make through the business, which is just those commissions, that is theirs to use however they see fit.
But any profits are going back into the company because obviously you need to continue to and reinvest into the business to build it.
Right. Yeah, we've taken no profits out of it. It's gone back in to sort of keep the operations going.
They are seeing all the spectrums of money then, and how, even the freedom to let them spend the money. And yet there's still a discernment in having them keep some of that money and put it away and then investing. To learn all of these things at such a young age, I can't imagine, having that knowledge going into, they have their business. I'm sure it sounds like they're probably going to have more businesses. They sound very entrepreneurial, as it is. So do they have other ideas?
We support them. We just want to guide them. And if they continue to love it, we're going to continue to help them learn more. It's really fun to watch, actually.
Yeah.
The light bulbs go off and they get excited about what's next. And they see that a big order come in, and they understand that that's fruit of their labor is, people love the product, and So they're going to buy it.
And we try and keep bringing it back around to the mission too. I mean, this started as something to support rescues, and that is part of our core mission, and part of our, every sale goes to rescue. So whenever there's a business decision about, do we go in this direction or that direction, we always bring it back to, is this supporting our mission?
Yes.
Is it part of our values and stuff? And I think that's important, teaching them to make decisions the right way.
Very cool. So with the startup, I guess, did it initially kick off? Did you guys start receiving sales like right away, or was it kind of a slow process? And how did the boys kind of take to that? Were there times where they were feeling discouraged? And I guess, what did you guys do as parents to help them through that?
I'm sure it started off slowly in the beginning. It's also a seasonal product, so where we are, it tends to be cold, whereas there are other parts of the country that stay warm. But, initially we were lucky in that we had some good relationships with, like, there was a retailer where we buy a lot of our, horse products, and they were super supportive right from the start. I
think it starts with friends and family, right? When it's in the lemonade stand, and those come in, and those are kind of fun. And then we get a retailer who's interested, who has the horse, and they also have a kennel and stuff. So there was dogs and horses involved, and that kept a trickle going through that made them excited. But we tend to get bumps, when there's something that ends up promoting us, whether that's, we go to a fair or something on social media, then we can see the bump in sales and they get real excited. And then, then it'll fall off a little bit. We show them, hey, you've got to always be discussing and marketing, and you can see the sales follow. So that's part of a lesson too, right? Businesses don't just kind of magically happen and sales come out of nowhere. You got to work for it.
Right.
Constantly. So they've been able to see that for sure.
Did you have to help them? Or did you make them like source where you would get the plastic products or the little cards that go in, or how did you guys do that?
Yeah, we did some of the legwork, because some of that is like super time intensive, all the time on the phone and things. That was time we didn't want them to devote. So they did some of it, but we did some of the background work. But sometimes we would get a quote, and then we just kind of leave it on their desk. They'd have their financial report and then a couple of quotes laying on their desk for them to ponder and see if they want to pick it up and put the pieces together to make the decision. And ultimately, they've got to make those decisions. We'll just sometimes help them gather the information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know everything that's going on. So, like, for example, just working on quotes for packaging.
Yeah.
You might be making the calls and getting the quotes, but we're telling them what we're doing, and then we're bringing them to them, and we analyze them and say, okay, this is, this looks like this is the best, and let them take a look. Of course, Meryl and Owen both math people. I am not. The numbers in their head, and so they're very involved in all of those things.
What's hard is because the kids don't understand the lead time it takes for some of these decisions. We make a decision about an event coming up months from now, or to make a packaging change or a labeling change. There's all this time before it comes to fruition, and that is hard for them to get. So we have tried to instill that, and sometimes they've missed opportunities because they haven't gotten the calendar right, even though we feel like we give them the guidance. But again, that's a great lesson, right? That's the way the world works, and they can see it firsthand.
Do you guys have any tips that you would give to parents just in general for their kids wanting to start a business?
Well, I do think it's okay for them to fail. Obviously, they're going to learn. It's hard as a parent to let that happen, just in any aspect of life. But I do think it's important for them to make those mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah, and you need to make sure they're doing it for the right reason, not because they want to show off to their friends or they're all about the dollar signs or something. They need to be really passionate about whatever the core of it is, to get them through the tough parts, because there certainly are sacrifices. I think they mentioned on their podcast, their Friday night movie night became Friday night doing work in front of a movie sometimes, and that's with the sacrifice needs to be the passion to sort of push through that stuff. So certainly you need to sort of always stay focused on the mission and the passion. Don't be afraid to fail. If you really want them to drive the bus, you got to be comfortable with where they're going to drive the bus. That's something that we are learning and getting better at, I think.
Just helping them to understand their why. I mean, it's kind of what you said, but knowing what your why is what's going to motivate you to see things through. So,
Yeah.
And maybe have realistic expectations. There are times when, we had a million things we were trying to do all at once and we thought was exciting to do the marketing and the infrastructure and balance and all the accounting and all that stuff. And we can't expect teenagers to kind of have a great sense of all of those things. So probably a couple of times when we had expectations on them that weren't really fair, we had to back on. So there's a lesson learned. That's
Yeah. Something that we didn't talk about is, were you guys horse people to begin with? Did you guys grow up with horses, or did Louis just come along?
So I grew up around horses only from living in, near a horse farm and then just taking lessons my entire childhood. I actually, when I turned 16, my parents gave me the option to either get a horse or a car, and I chose a car, embarrassingly. But then a couple of years ago, I just saw an article in the paper, and there's a local rescue that also serves the underprivileged. And they had the option to come out and do volunteer work and be around the horses. And I was just craving. I've always loved them and just always did trail rides and simple things like that. But so I just wanted to be around them. And I was fine mucking stalls for 3 hours a day. I just thought it was great. And then, of course, I told Jim along the way, I was like, you realize we're going to get a horse, right? Because
I did not realize, actually.
Horses that need to be rescued and not go home with one. So, just waited for the right one to come along and found Louis. And so here we are. So he's amazing. I spend most days every week, a couple hours. It's such a great way to start my day. At this point, I can't imagine not having him in our lives. The kids they adore him. They don't get out there as much as I wish they did, but they're busy. But when they are out there, they are with him. And I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive and understanding husband, because he didn't marry a horse girl. Yeah. At least he did. Yeah. So he didn't know what he was getting himself into.
Yeah, I rode horses at camp when I was growing up. I didn't really have a horse upbringing, and it was a little scary at first when she was like, "Oh, we're getting a horse." And I guess I did see that coming, but that was a little scary to me because that comes with some things I was unfamiliar with. But it's a big leap of faith, and I would never regret any of it. It's a very healthy thing for our family, and especially for Kim. It's
happy wife.
It's a happy place, and it's peaceful. So we're really fortunate to have been able to have a horse and to be able to have that as part of our lives. So no regrets.
Yeah, very cool.
So when you talk about giving to a rescue, I know even with my mom owning our company, we've been asked several times by several people for sponsorships and, to donate to things. And we are a small business, we can only do so much, and we try to do some things. But how do you handle that? When you have, you want to help everybody, but did you guys just pick one rescue and that's what you went with, and that's what you would continue to go with?
So we started with Circle A. That was where Louis came from. And then we just decided we didn't want to say no if we didn't have to.
Yeah.
So it kind of opened it up. We just made sure that we defined what, with our mission, what type of nonprofits are we going to support. And we decided initially it was equine rescues. And then we added dog rescues to it, because we expanded our product line is a good fit for dogs too. And so we are, and you can jump in at any point, we are at a point where we have so many that we give our donations quarterly. We're spread kind of thin, and we want to make sure, we're making an impact no matter what size the check is. But we kind of stopped accepting new rescues to support. Now, somebody wants some pops as a prize or a basket or a raffle. We love doing that. We haven't said no to that yet. So
yeah, it was helpful that was part of our initial business plan from day one, was to give a percentage. So it's kind of hard to have a business plan where suddenly you're giving away a large percentage of your after you've already gotten something established. But that was us from day one, so we kind of planned for that. And then we really wanted people to be able to choose their charity and where they give, so that wherever they have the biggest connection, we wanted to promote those connections. So that's why we have on the website, you can pick from a drop down which one of the charities you want to designate it to, which is not fun for accounting, which falls on me, but we're going to do it anyway. But there is a limit to that. We can't have 25 things on our drop down on the website.
Yeah.
So we haven't mastered that. We've got some ideas on how to manage having so many rescues. So if you designate, we send that money to that rescue. But then if you don't designate, which is actually the majority of people, we kind of divvy that up every quarter.
Okay.
Amongst the rescues.
So that's still just something that you're going to continue to work towards, and the same with us too. We have to kind of figure things out too, because I will say, when my mom started the company, we didn't have there was nothing, there was nothing to be able to, and we've got big products. It's not like you can just send somebody a roll of fence, kind of a thing. We don't have really any small products to send, but now that we're kind of getting a few things in, we're able to do some of those things, and we've done sponsorships too, but it is quite a bit. So is there any tips that you would give to anybody starting out with their kids if they wanted to give? Maybe would you do it differently if you had to do it all over again?
For the donations?
Yeah.
I don't think we would. I mean, again, it's not a great for your dollars and cents to give a big chunk of your revenue off the top. Isn't a great business plan if your goal is to make money, but that's not our goal. Is not all about the dollar sign. So,
well, the more money we make, the more we get to give. So that's always good. But I don't know. It's not a perfect system. We haven't really figured out what to do at this point. We've been careful to make sure that the rescues that we are associated with we qualify them. It's not a super rigorous qualification, but we make sure they're a reputable nonprofit, and they're definitely a 501c3. And everybody has been a referral to us. So through reputation and their experiences, we've been able to make sure that they are a good quality, reputable rescue. I wish we could give to an unlimited number, but
yeah. And it's okay if your donations come back to you in terms of recognition or awareness of that kind of stuff. It's a relationship. So we try to teach the boys that, it's okay that this donation may lead to somebody learning about us. It's not being self-serving. That's how we're going to grow. And ultimately we're going to help more horses and dogs growing. So it is kind of this cycle and relationship building. It's okay to sort of capitalize them on it in a sense.
It's not why we're doing it, but if we want to continue to grow and help more, you kind of have to. So,
yeah.
I think it's really.
I don't think there.
I think it's really good though that you started out with you decided, even if it's a percentage, even if it's a small percentage, and that's what your goal is. I think that's even a good thing to know, how would you do that? And I think that's a good way to even just start, and see if it works out with the finances to be able to do that. There's a point where you have to grow and make sure that you're able to put back into the company too. So you don't want to hurt yourself. And they're, like you're saying, to be recognized by, when you're doing these things too, isn't, it's not a bad thing, even though you're donating and things like that. So I think those are all good things to talk about,
Yeah.
So
I do have another question. So when times get tough, we kind of talked about this a little bit, and the boys get tired, or, they don't want to do that or do the business and continue on. I guess, how do you encourage them to keep going?
I mean, if they want to stop, they can stop.
Right.
We're not making them do this. There are times when they just don't feel like doing things, certainly, and we've discussed the pros and cons of, right, if you're choosing to not make this phone call before 5 o'clock, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to reach the business owner, for example. And so if they make the call at 6:30 and they don't reach him, that was because he wanted to, do something, play basketball outside. That's understandable. He needs to get outside, but.
Yeah, we try and explain the consequences to them and let them make the decision and not let our anxiety show on our face if they make a decision that makes us anxious. Right? We've got to be okay with it. That's hard.
Yeah.
The phone call was an example. It just happened the other day. Gotta make the call before 5.
Yeah.
Because we don't want them to do anything to please us. We want to do it because
Yeah.
it's their business and stuff. So they've got to stay invested, which means if they need to sort of back off a little bit and recharge, that's okay. And And if they ultimately said, hey, we're done, we don't want to do this anymore, then we would stop doing it.
Yeah.
There.
Or we would teach them how to transition out of it and hopefully capitalize on the transition out of it in some way.
Yeah. Well, another interesting wrinkle is they've learned about intellectual property. We have trademarked "Share Your Happy" as our tagline, because part of our core value is about sharing happiness. The pops are not a nutritional supplement. They're about building this experience between animals and people. So it's about the happiness and sharing those experiences. So "Share Your Happy" we have trademarked, but that whole idea of trademarking a phrase and working with the attorneys and everything was new to them, which probably not a lot of kids have been through that. So that's been interesting for them.
Yeah, that would be.
I'm like, I've never done that.
Yeah, that is a big deal to do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Are there resources that other kids could look into? Like, could they contact Happy Pops if they wanted to get some like business starter tips? Or are there any resources that you guys go to that would be great for kids wanting to start businesses?
I mean, they are welcome to call us. They can talk to the boys, because the boys will tell them firsthand what they've learned. If there's anything they can't answer, we're not experts by any means, but yes. And that's interesting. You'll hear more about that later, about something that's come out of that exact question. The Kids in Bids organization, they are amazing, and their mission is to make this a national organization where they can help more kids to learn how to become business owners. So that's just kidsinbiz.org.
Okay.
I mean, there are lots of books you can get that kind of are kid focused. To get that hands-on training, Kids in Biz, I think, is about the only organization I know of that really focuses on kids.
I mean, there's Kidpreneur, which there's a book out there, and it kind of teaches you how to start a business. It was a little bit like, it was geared to actually I'm sorry, I'm gonna step back. Most of the books that I found and bought or borrowed from the library were geared towards really young kids. And we have teachers that they're smart. I mean, they get numbers. They needed something that was the next level, and I haven't found that. So we navigate this a little bit on our own. But honestly, Kids in Biz, they were great. They've helped us through this too. But most of the resources out there are for really young kids, which is fine.
Yeah, a dream I have, and we have not done this, but I would love to do it, is that our business model, part of it would be coaching kids to sort of represent us and to sell on our behalf. Because, we've coached up our kids, and they go to these events, and if they get in front of somebody, they sell them almost 100% of the time, because they've learned how to engage with people and read cues and talk and promote their business. And they're really good salespeople, and they've learned that. And we'd love to teach other people that, or have them teach other kids. So my dream is one day we would have this little network of kids that we coach into learning all those skills through Happy Pops. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but it's a neat idea.
Young independent contractors.
Yeah. Fun, because we've sort of seen our kids' growth. We'd love to replicate that with other kids.
Yeah.
Learn the lessons, but we'll see if we get there.
I hope you do. My nieces and nephews will be the first in line. They would love that.
We need a test kitchen group of kids.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com. We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. Yourhorsefarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often. This podcast is brought to you by Ram Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ram is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
All right, so we knew we arrived when we got this in the mail. So we were not seeking any employees, but we got our first employee application. It's done in crayon on construction paper with a drawing of Louie there. And it says, "Dear Happy Pops, can I get an online job?" I might be a big help, and I'm good at using computers. And if there's anything I don't know, my brother knows a lot about computers. He goes on to say their dogs love Happy Pops, and they love the idea, and they live in New Hampshire, but they've been to Virginia Beach. So I think when people are unsolicited signing up to be employees, we know we've got something good.
That is very
so
good.
I love that.
I know. Isn't that adorable?
Yes.
Your handwriting, you
Yeah.
can see that.
Oh, it's
Oh my
so
gosh.
cute. I love it. And if he doesn't,
Louis, she did our icon.
yeah. And
Yeah, so she has become an ambassador for us, and so she's our sales division in the Northeast, and keep her stocked with pops, and we've got some new flavors we'll have her try out. So we've got an advocate there, but it was really fun to see her reach out to us like that.
But that's where, like Jim was talking earlier, we realized there might be something here where we can like add another wrinkle, another layer to how we can give back. Even, let's get this army of kids out there. You can learn really basic business sense by just simply going out there and sharing the story. And, somebody wants to buy them, they can put their name in and how did you hear about us? And they get a commission, but they have to learn how to we'll also guide the parents to help them learn how to manage their money and how to, promote more, develop ideas and what they can do and say. And even maybe they can help find retailers in their area around the country. So anyway, we'll see what comes out of it. But
yeah, the business is nice because it's very scalable. It's very visual. The product is colorful and visual and fun. So it's easy to get people engaged in it. And, we're about share the happy. It's about happiness. There's just a lot of positivity around it. So the only problem is there are lots of directions we could go. Sometimes we need to be realistic with our and not let it overtake other things that are important.
But for Quinn, we had the kids call her when we didn't call her.
Yeah.
The kids called her and said, "We got your application." And we were like, "You just call it an application."
Right.
And they talked to her about what she was looking to do and what her goals were. And then they discussed, the possible business relationship. And here we go.
That's so cute.
We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@ramfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.